Guys, so we're going to be talking about chapter 4 today, which is cardiorespiratory endurance. So hopefully that you've already read that chapter or reviewed the PowerPoint kind of thing. So again, I'm going to skim through the PowerPoint and I'm going to hit on points that I feel like are very important and what might pop up in your quizzes, stuff like that I really want you to take away from this chapter. So in talking about cardiorespiratory system, you need to understand the components of the cardiorespiratory system. So the heart is part of it, obviously. Your lungs are a part of it, and your vascular system is also part of your cardiorespiratory system. So the heart keeps everything pumping, sends the blood everywhere, sends oxygen everywhere. Hopefully you understand how that works, take an anatomy class, that sort of thing. Your lungs tend to, there's a lot of different components that go on with the heart and the lungs, which are combined. So the lungs tend to take in oxygen and then they expel carbon dioxide, but they do that through a series of different ways. And the vascular system also helps with that. So the vascular system is responsible for circulating blood to the lungs as well as the body. So the vascular system is what circulates the blood and the oxygen throughout the body. So when talking about cardiorespiratory systems and talking about the heart, lungs, and the vascular system, it's important to address that I use a term in PowerPoint called CRF, which is cardiorespiratory fitness. So cardiorespiratory fitness is really and truly the amount of blood and oxygen that your body or your heart and your lungs that can supply to your body when you're doing physical activity. So when you're doing physical activity, the heart's going to beat faster, it's going to try and pump blood faster, it's going to try and send oxygen faster, so everything. But it's important to acknowledge that the heart can only go so fast. So the heart has a limit to how fast it can pump, and that determines your cardiorespiratory fitness endurance in a total. So your max heart rate is already predetermined. Excuse me. Do you like my nice cup, my NC State cup, repping at all times? So anyway, so max heart rate is predetermined, and it's predetermined by your age. So the way that you calculate max heart rate, which you will need to know, is 220 minus your age. So that's how you're going to calculate max heart rate, is 220 minus your age. So if you are 20 years old, then your max heart rate will be 200, and you should not exceed 200 in heart rate. If you do, it's very detrimental to your body, and it causes a lot of different problems. So I also addressed the question in the PowerPoint of why, when you try to run fast, does it make you feel like you can't breathe? And that's because of the cold air that's getting into your lungs, and it stings and it feels like it's poking little holes in your lungs, but it doesn't hurt you. So don't think that it's hurting you. Also, this wonderful term called lactic acid is really part of the reason that we get sore. So lactic acid is what builds up in your muscles that creates fatigue. So the more lactic acid that you have in your muscles, the more tired you're going to feel and the more sore you're going to be later on. So I asked the question of how do you reduce lactic acid or lactate acid? So how do you reduce that? You reduce that by stretching, by cooling down and warming up, and by doing it again. So that's my number one suggestion for you is if you're sore, I've heard so many times, I'm sore, I just can't do it, it hurts, I don't want to do it. If it hurts, I should stop, right? I've heard that phrase so many times, and that's just not the case. If you do hurt, then you should stop. But being sore and being hurt are two completely different things. Sore is like, it hurts to kind of roll over in bed, but it's not painful. It's like, oh, I worked my muscles like I hadn't worked my lats in a long time, so I'm sore. The number one way to reduce that or get rid of it is to do it again. So if you continue to do it again, you won't be sore anymore. Your muscles will adjust and you will reduce the lactic acid that's built up in those muscles. So as much as it might hurt you, you do need to do it again. So don't sit in bed and be like, oh, like I'm sore, I'll just skip the gym today. Nope, that's the perfect time that you should go back. So definitely go back, maybe take it a little easier, but you need to move, you need to build up that strength, and you need to reduce that acid that's built up in your muscles. The next thing, can you eat before exercise? That's a big question that's been addressed in all my classes of what should I eat, what can I eat? Yes, you should eat before you exercise. Should you eat a huge steak meal from Texas Roadhouse or Ruth Chris? No. So the best way I can describe it is your stomach, your intestines have to have blood to digest your food. And the more that you put in your intestines or your stomach, the more blood flow that's going to have to generate for it to digest quicker. Now, if you've just eaten a big meal and then you go to the gym, well, now you're having to redirect blood flow from your stomach and your intestines when it's trying to digest something. And it's redirecting to your legs, to your arms, to everywhere else. So the restricted blood flow is going to take it much, much longer to digest, and you're going to feel super sluggish. You're going to feel gross, like there's so much stuff on your stomach. Everyone's been in that situation where you ate too much, so you feel compelled to go to the gym, or you're like, I'm going to go run, or maybe you haven't. But if you have, then you understand what I'm talking about. If you feel sloshy, you feel gross, you feel like you might throw up, it's just not fun. So my best recommendation for you before you exercise is to eat something quick that has energy or protein. Either way, you don't want a lot of protein because you would want to intake your protein after you've done your workout to regenerate the muscle cells. So I typically eat a banana before I go work out. I work out super early in the morning, so I spend my time in the gym from like 5:15 a.m. to 6 a.m. And so I will eat a banana because it gives me energy, and it's a quick energy, and it's something on my stomach early in the morning, but it's not super filling. So things like that, a banana, a granola bar is pretty good. Apple and peanut butter is pretty good. Crackers are okay. Things like that supply quick energy, that are not super filling, are the best route to go. And then you have 3 different energy systems that provide energy. So your ATP, CP, which to me sounds like something you order at a Mexican restaurant. I'm sorry. Is your quick energy. So those are things that are going to last probably less than 5 seconds, less than 10 seconds. They're your power. So things like volleyball player going up for a hit, basketball player going up for a rebound, a baseball player hitting a ball, all those things are power that take less than 10 seconds in total. So they're very powerful things. Or a lineman blocking somebody, sometimes that lasts longer than 10 seconds though. So anything that you can think of that generates power. Then you have your glycolic system, which is things that last like 30 seconds. That's your small boost of energy. Things like sprinting, fast swimming, jump rope, all of those things are part of your glycolic system. So running a 200-meter dash, Michael Phelps swimming the 100, all of those things are part of it because they're smaller. So anything 30 seconds, maybe a minute, in that time frame is going to be your glycolic system. So it has to get up, but it also has to generate enough energy to last a little bit longer than your ATP, CP. Then you have your aerobic system, which does involve oxygen, which is your longer bursts of energy. So things like running a mile, 5K, swimming for a long period of time, biking for a long period of time, playing sports for a prolonged period of time. Anything that takes quite a bit of time is your aerobic system because it requires energy. I have to sneeze, I do apologize. Okay, so I'm sorry. Benefits of cardiorespiratory fitness: it's going to put less pressure on your heart and your lungs, so you're going to be more fit vascularly. So the more fit vascularly you are, the more things that you can do. So the lower your resting heart rate is, the better off you're going to be. So the more that you work on these things, the lower your blood pressure will be, the lower your heart rate will be, and the less pressure, like I said, the less pressure it puts on everything else, because the heart supplies blood throughout your entire body. So the more efficient that your heart can be, the more energy you're going to save in the long run, and the more healthy you're going to be in the long run as well. So in order to track your CRF, you really want to pay attention to your heart rate and your resting heart rate. So the higher your resting heart rate is, the more your heart's having to work, which puts more pressure and wear and tear on your heart, which can eventually lead to heart disease, heart attack, all of those fun things. CRF also improves performance, so you, like I said, your heart's going to go stronger. Your VO2 max, which is the absolute amount of oxygen that you can consume during peak exercise. So VO2 max is typically when someone puts you on a treadmill and they hook you up to the oxygen, and they calculate how much oxygen you can expel and inhale at peak exercise. You have reduced risk of disease, so anytime your CRF goes up, your blood pressure is going to go down. Like I said, you have a reduced risk of heart disease, reduced risk of osteoporosis, cancer, anything you can think of. The more efficient your heart is, the less disease there will be. It's also helpful for stress management, so you get more confident whenever you get fitter. It changes your brain chemistry, so you typically release more dopamine, and increases your body temperature, and lots of fun things. You really can't go wrong with increasing your CRF. I mean, really and truly, you're going to feel so much better. I have so many students that tell me that they feel so much better when they start to work out. It becomes their stress management. They feel more confident. They understand what they're supposed to be doing. It's their safe place. Ways to assess your CRF, your run-walk test. That is one way to do it. So you're going to walk or run 1.5 miles and then time yourself, and your time as your measurement. Step test, we do this in semester usually. If you take a class in the fall or spring, you would do a step test, which is 3 minutes, where we do steps in a certain rhythm, and then you calculate your heart rate after the 3 minutes for 1 minute, and that's your assessment. And then you have the Rockport walk test. You walk 1 mile, and you see how fast your heart rate is. So you walk 1 mile as fast as you can, and then your heart rate is going to be your assessment, versus the run walk test is your time, not your heart rate. And then the step test is also your heart rate. So the Rockport walk test is your heart rate, and the step test are your heart rate, whereas the run walk tests are your time. Creating a fitness plan, so you need to use the FIT principle, which is frequency, intensity, time, type. How often do you want to go to the gym? How long do you want to go to the gym? What type of exercise do you want to do? So if I want to work out, say I only have 30 minutes a day, so then that would change my span. I would want to work out 30 minutes a day for 5 to 7 days a week, versus if I have an hour 2 to 3 days a week, then that would be different. So I would work out an hour 2 to 3 days a week, and my workouts would differ because of the time frame. So I would not be able to do HIIT training for an hour. I would be doing something different. I would probably be doing weightlifting and then maybe running, whatever it may be. ACSM guidelines, 150 minutes per week. You need to get at least 150 of moderate exercise a week, which is 30 minutes 5 times a week. Vigorous is, I want to say, I can't remember what that vigorous is. I want to say maybe 120. It might be less than that. Don't quote me on that. Moderate versus vigorous. So your walk talk test, if you can sing, if you can talk but not sing, then you're doing moderately. But if you can barely talk, then you're doing vigorous. Your heart rate max method is, we talked about that, it's 220 minus your age. And then your target heart rate range is going to be the percentage that you want to work out. So if you want to work 57% to 94%, then you're going to do your max heart rate times 57%, and your max heart rate times 94%, and that's where your heart rate should be during exercise. That's your target heart rate zone, which is important to know. RPE scale, rate of perceived exertion. How hard are you working? I like to compare that to a hospital scale of how much pain are you in from a 1 to 10, and it's basically the same color scheme of red is really, really bad, and then purple is calming, so whatever you perceive your exertion to be. So that's really all I have for you right now. If you have any questions about any of this, please email me, and make sure that you're taking a look at all of your notes. So make sure you're looking at this PowerPoint, because again, I didn't go through all of the things in this PowerPoint. And if you have questions about the PowerPoint, again, please reach out to me. I'm happy to take your call. I'm happy to take your email, whatever it may be. So I will see you guys again soon.